Hello and welcome to another edition of Weapons and Warfare. For Straight Arrow News, I'm your host, Ryan Robertson, and we are coming to you from Washington, D.C., where we are covering the Association of the United States Army's annual convention. Just ahead on this week's episode, we hear from the Army's highest-ranking civilian, officer, and NCO as they focus on recruiting new soldiers and preparing the current force for potential challenges posed by America's near-peer adversaries. In our Weapon of the Week segment, we get an up-close look at Northrup Grumman's next-gen duel-feed Bushmaster, capable of handling threats from above and on the ground. But first, here are some headlines you may have missed. While the Air Force, Navy, and Marines have recently turned a larger focus toward their efforts in the Pacific, the Army has been quieter about its plans until now. Speaking at AUSA, General Charles Flynn, commander of U.S. Army Pacific, emphasized the importance of soldiers being at the front lines of America's defense of the region.
We concede no domain in the Pacific. We can't lose in any one of them. So the strength that we have to apply, not just in the air domain, not just in the maritime domain, not just in the space and cyber domain, there is also strength that's required in the land domain to integrate all of these things. And the interdependencies of the joint force, they're reliant upon land forces bringing these things together.
The U.S. Army's history of engaging in island warfare can be traced back to the Pacific in World War II, when soldiers and U.S. Marines took part in the island hopping campaign to capture islands in the area from Japanese forces. The United States is sending a terminal high-altitude area defense battery to Israel, along with the troops needed to operate it. In a statement, Pentagon spokesman Major General Pat Ryder said Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin authorized the deployment of the THAAD battery at the direction of President Joe Biden. He said the system will help bolster Israel's air defenses following Iran's ballistic missile attacks on Israel in April and October. In his statement, Ryder said the deployment, quote, underscores the United States' ironclad commitment to the defense of Israel and to defend Americans in Israel from any further ballistic missile attacks by Iran.
It's going to be fully operations capable in the near future. I'm not going to get into the specific dates for operation security. I will say that it has been integrated into the Israeli air defense as well as our broader U.S. efforts, regionally to support the defense of Israel.
The THAAD battery will add another layer to Israel's already significant air defenses, which include separate systems designed to intercept long-range, medium-range, and short-range threats. And a converted Japanese helicopter carrier is now anchored on the west coast of the United States. The JS Kaga, now an aircraft carrier, is in the U.S. to take part in military readiness exercises with their American counterparts. The Kaga is one of the first two of its kind in Japan since World War II. Over the next few weeks, American F-35Bs will be landing on the Japanese ship for crew training, as Japan has 42 of the Joint Strike Fighters on order. It represents another step in U.S. strategy to deter and contain China in the Pacific. With nearly 900,000 active duty soldiers and more than 500,000 in the Guard and Reserves, America's largest and oldest branch of service finds itself in a tough spot. Despite the fact it's been more than 3 years since the United States withdrew from its last war, the Army, much like the other service branches, finds itself in need of new recruits and modernization. All of this while keeping an eye on an ever-changing threat environment. In the opening hours of this year's AUSA gathering, Army leaders sat down to talk about a wide range of issues facing Army brass and soldiers in the field. The Secretary of the Army, Christine Wormuth, led off with some good news for soldiers who find themselves deployed far from home. Wormuth says this new operational deployment pay will put an additional $240 per month in the pockets of troops deployed for more than 60 days.
And that is both to recognize the hardship of being away from families, but also the rigors of deployment. And that is something that will be officially implementing retroactively to October 1st of this year.
Of course, one of the biggest hurdles facing any branch of service is the budget. While the Army's remained relatively flat over the past few years, the expectations placed on soldiers and leadership did not. It's a situation the Chief of Staff says requires some very hard choices and a willingness to find new ways of doing things.
I can give you a lot of examples where previously we were buying equipment, vehicles, radios, extra stuff that now can be done on an app, and that's a lot cheaper. And so I think it's a combination of all those things that we're going to have to take a look at as we move forward.
Then there's recruiting and retention. With a stated goal of finding 61,000 new soldiers in 2025, the Army is just as interested in keeping the highly skilled, highly trained troops already in its ranks, especially as the nature of combat continues to evolve.
I think we have to have some concerns. I mean, it's a very competitive market out there. We see it with recruiting and we see it with retention. But we've got a lot of capability to keep those soldiers in. First is the purpose. They want to do their jobs. We see that. We're seeing that with transforming contact brigades right now. We're seeing soldiers who are getting to do things they hadn't had an opportunity to do before. We talked about it, and now they're doing it. Matter of fact, we're hearing from all the other brigades, hey, when are we going to get to do that? So now we're trying to figure out how we can do this faster with that sense of urgency I referenced.
With AUSA getting underway shortly after the president gave the go-ahead for the Army to send a terminal high-altitude area defense battery to Israel, along with the troops needed to operate it, the subject of air defense and the ability to work with allies was also a hot topic.
I think for all of our air defense systems, anywhere we're going to go in the world, we are going to be operating as a joint team. So that's, to your point, that's exactly where we need to go with all of our system. And a big reason why we're really focused on the network, and a big reason why we're focused on IBCS and all of these aspects. So I do know that THAAD will be a great increase in capability when it's sent over there, and to help tie that whole picture together.
According to an April report by the Congressional Research Service, the Army has 7 THAAD batteries. Generally, each consists of 6 truck-mounted launchers, 48 interceptors, radio and radar equipment, and requires 95 soldiers to operate.
Serving you clarity through context, our mission at SAN is to deliver the news straight down the middle. We're different from mainstream media because we spotlight distorted headlines and show you how to do it too. Discover stories that right and left-leaning outlets are choosing not to cover by using our Media Mist tool. Download the SAN app and turn on notifications to have straight facts delivered right to your phone or tablet, and get straight facts anytime at SAN.com.
All right, folks, for this week's Weapon of the Week, we have a treat for you. Joining me now is John McCullum with Northrup Grumman. John, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thank you, Ryan.
We have a beast of a gun behind us. It's the Bushmaster dual-fed chain gun. Why do we need a dual-fed Bushmaster?
Yeah, this dual-fed M230LF is the latest Bushmaster chain gun that we're really excited about introducing here at the show. And the key for this dual-fed gun is that we had a demand from our customers to address the UAV threat. And how this gun helps do that is it can use 2 different types of ammunition. So you have the right ammunition for both the UAV and the traditional ground threats. And at a flip of a switch, the operator can switch between those 2 appropriate types of ammunition. So the 2 types of ammunition here are the high explosive prox round, which we use to address the UAVs, as well as the traditional high explosive dual purpose, which we use against the ground targets.
So when we're talking about the different types of ammo that the gun can shoot, what exactly are we talking about?
Yeah, there are really there's this full suite of 30 by 113 NATO standard ammunition that this cannon fires. But the two that we would recommend to load in the dual feed to address both the drones and the ground threats are the high explosive dual purpose, which is for the ground, and then the proximity fused ammunition, which it can address the drones because it can sense the target. And so if it gets close enough to the target to sense, it then goes off and frags against the drone.
That's some science fiction that you just explained to me. The round itself can sense the target.
Yeah, the round has a sensor in the nose, and so it can actually sense the target, and it knows then the appropriate time to go off to be able to take it out.
That's crazy. John, what's next? I mean, obviously you unveiled it this week at the show. Is it in production at this point?
Yes, it's currently TRL 6. So this is our working prototype, the actual gun here. And we're going to take it to a live fire sometime next year and demonstrate it for some of the customers that are interested. And then at that point, we'll be able to start taking orders.
Absolutely. John, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan.
All right, folks, for this week's Comms Check, we kind of have a special treat for you. I have an intelligence officer and friend of the show, John Mullick, to kind of pick his brain about what he saw at this year's AUSA. So, John, thank you so much for joining us today.
Sure thing, Ryan.
What did you learn from the show?
Oh, I learned a lot of things. First and foremost, drones are everywhere, right? And I think that's pretty obvious given the current landscape that we have downrange, particularly in Ukraine. But everybody wants to sell a drone. Everyone wants the newest capability, and they're all fighting in order to get that capability on the battle space. Now, and what's cool for me as an intelligence officer is a lot of these drones are within the ISR sphere. So they're trying to demonstrate their EOIR capabilities. They want to be able to fly longer.
EOIR.
Yep. So electro-optical infrared. So the ability to see at night, during the day. Also, we have LiDAR capability, which is able to see through clouds, those type of things. And they're trying to demonstrate how their component could be better. And this is all great for the United States and all of our allies and partners that are here as well, as we're all trying to get just a little bit better, a little bit faster. And that's really good to see.
What surprised you? Is there anything that really stood out and surprised you the most out of this show?
Well, I think the thing that's surprising the most is the fact they're able to get a 155 self-propelled howitzer artillery system from Sweden on the second floor of a convention center. I think that's amazing, right? If you want to talk logistics and sustainment. But I don't know if surprise is the right answer or the right word to describe it, but it's really heartening to see the relationships that are being built. And some have already been developed, particularly within the NATO community, but sitting through some of these conversations with our allies, some of the panels I was able to attend, to see how well we are integrating now, given the threat from Russia and Ukraine, and how it's really forced NATO to come together. And we're all working together in all domains, not, air, ground, land, but also within the intelligence domain as well. We're talking about increasing communication using a BICE system, which is like a classified system that we use to pass information, and all of the commanders are on the same page, all of the countries are on the same page, everyone's unified in their effort to protect against Russian aggression.
You mentioned BAE's Archer mobile artillery unit. Very impressive, obviously. Bell has a mock-up of their V-280 Valor here. Mm-hmm. What piece of equipment kind of stood out to you the most as very impressive?
Well, the Archer for sure, and this is because in today's fight, we need to be able to shoot, displace, move, and do it very, very quickly, and the Archer can do that. Right? This is a 155 millimeter self-propelled artillery system as a whole. It has extra rounds that follow it with other pieces of equipment, but nonetheless, it's able to engage targets, fire 3 rounds, and displace within under a minute. I mean, and this is the type of capability that we need on the NATO side of the house in order to protect and defend against, again, Russian aggression, and then potentially even someday in Taiwan if that comes to it.
Yeah, and the fact that the 155 millimeter can now be guided. Some of these companies are making guided artillery rounds, which is science fiction to me.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, and we need it. And the other part about the guided piece too is that the advancements in the protection against electronic warfare, rather, and because that's really helping to change the battle space as well. You can see how the communication between these ISR drones, for example, and satellites, they really have to be able to communicate, and it's hard to jump frequencies, do these things. But anyway, so they're working on that type of stuff, especially in the guided munition sphere. So it's not just dumb rounds that we're sending downrange, that we're sending these smart rounds.
John, always appreciate talking to you. It was really great to meet you in person. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Yeah. All right, folks, that'll do it for this week's Comms Check.
All opinions expressed in this segment are solely the opinions of the contributors.
Folks, if you ever have a chance to visit the AUSA convention in Washington, D.C., I highly suggest you do. It's free and it's fascinating. For us here at Weapons and Warfare, this was our first time attending the meeting. We walked almost 20 miles in 3 days, learning about all sorts of stuff. And we'll be sharing it with all of you in the months ahead. Plus, we still have content from aerospace and cyber to share. So if you want to know more about the United States military, believe me when I say Weapons and Warfare has you covered. So please make sure you like and subscribe to all of our social media channels and share the show with your friends as well. While we were walking around all those miles this week, there were a lot of new things to see, but it was still somewhat familiar. Similar to previous defense expos we've been to, we met some of the most brilliant minds on the planet, and they're creating powerful, ingenious, and in many cases, cost-effective solutions to all sorts of problems. Problems American forces would face if fears about a conflict with China or Russia become reality. And the thing is, many of those solutions are ready, or very near ready, to going into production. But the companies can't start churning out those solutions because the procurement process in the DoD is, as my grandma used to say, older than mud. The Air Force Secretary, Frank Kendall, was a little bit more demure when he said the United States military needs to move at the speed of relevancy. And the Army Chief of Staff, General Randy George, also recognized the reality of the situation, saying this week the Army has to buy smart and fast because its budget is tight, its numbers are lean, and that requires the service to prioritize and make informed investments. The Government Accountability Office says it takes DoD major acquisition programs an average of 11 years to deliver on initial capabilities. 11 years. It's not exactly moving at the speed of relevancy, and as my grandma would say, that dog don't hunt. The United States military is the most lethal fighting force on the planet, but in drawn-out conflicts, even the most lethal warriors need weapons, which is why I also encourage every politician in power today and in the future to attend shows like the AUSA convention so they can meet some of the brave men and women they might be failing by not moving fast enough. Those are my thoughts, but we sure would like to hear yours. You can email the show, weaponsandwarfare@san.com, all spelled out, and we sure would like to hear what you have to say about all of this stuff. For senior producer Brett Baker, video editor Brian Spencer, and graphics artist Dakota Patillo, I'm Ryan Robertson, giving a very special thanks to our photographer this week, Sam Beatty, with Straight Arrow News, signing off.